Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 1 to 12. Therefore thou shalt love the Lord thy God, and keep his charge, and his statutes, and his judgments, and his commandments always.
And know ye this day, for I speak not with your children, which have not known, and which have not seen the chastisement of the Lord your God. His greatness, his mighty hand, and his stretched out arm.
And his miracles and his acts, which he did in the midst of Egypt unto Pharaoh the king of Egypt, and unto all his land.
And what he did unto the army of Egypt, unto their horses, and to their chariots, how he made the water of the Red Sea to overflow them as they stood out to you, and how the Lord hath destroyed them unto this day.
Verse 5. And what he did unto you in the wilderness until you came into this place.
And what he did unto them and Aaron, the sons of Levi, the sons of Reuben, how he hath overcome and Sodom, and their households, and their tents, and all the substance that was in their possession, in the midst of all Israel.
But your eyes have seen the great acts of the Lord which he did.
Therefore shall ye keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that ye may be strong, and go in and possess the land, whither ye go to possess it.
And that ye may prolong your days in the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give unto them and to their seed, a land that floweth with milk and honey.
The land which thou goest into to possess it is not as the land of Egypt, from whence ye came out, where thou sowest thy seed, and waterest it to thy foot, as the garden of others.
11 and 12 together, please. But the land which thou goest to possess is the land of hills and valleys, and drinketh water of the rain of heaven. A land which the Lord thy God careth for. The eyes of the Lord thy God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year. May God bless the reading of his word. The topic, obedience. Obedience. Yesterday we spoke about who we are obeying. Very often we forget who we obey, and as a result we have the wrong perspective of why we are obeying God, and as a result also we have the wrong kind of obedience. But until we begin to know that it is the Supreme God, the High and Almighty Holy One, that calls us to obey, and then we begin to realize that it is truly indeed such a great privilege to obey Him. A great privilege for us to say we have something to do for this great and high God. Do we have that right perspective? After yesterday's message, we begin to change our thinking. When God tells us to do something, when God gives us something to do, when He tells us to live this way or that way, we have to look at it as a great privilege to be given something from this God to do. Remember we had that example of Lee Kuan Yew, then I realized maybe some of you do not know who he is. Lee Kuan Yew is the former Prime Minister of Singapore, a man who many nations admire, the country itself admire him greatly. And there are people who just long to know him. Just to shake his hand is a great thing that they remember all their lives. People who work for him, or they will never want to leave the Prime Minister office. They hope they can work for him for the rest of their lives. So when we have the right perspective of God, God is far greater than any great man on this earth that ever lived. When we look at that perspective, we begin to realize that it is a glory just to walk with Him. Do you feel that way when you're associated with someone who's famous, big in this world? You feel, wow, I rub shoulders with him. A glory to walk with the Supreme God. So Moses made sure the people understood who they were coming to obey. Why? Because the children of Israel has failed. They have worshipped the golden calf. Moses came down with the second round of bringing the 10 commandments to them. Moses knows that this time they cannot fail. They must not fail God again. So Moses, first of all, explains to them, do you know who this God is that has made a covenant with you, made you his people? Why are you disobedient to him? You should understand this is the greatest privilege, to fear him, to know him. So who we obey. And when they know, then they fear this God. We put him in great reverence, great honor, place of great honor. But now he's going to shift his focus. So you look at chapter 10, verse 12. Now we started there yesterday. Today's message is about why we obey. Right? Yesterday was who we obey. Verse 12 now, he starts off this way. Note the sequence of the arrangements of word carefully. Verse 12, chapter 10, verse 12. Now he begins, when he talks about who they obey, he begins like that. Verse 12, and now Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee, but, now notice, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul. Now he begins with to fear God, then to walk, in other words, to obey, to pattern your life after what he wants you to do. So he begins with that first. You say fear, it begins with fear. It begins with fear and obey. But now in chapter 11, after he had presented that, now look at chapter 11 verse 1. The sequence changes. Therefore thou shalt love. Now it begins with love. Just now we began with fear. It begins with love thy God and keep his charge, his statutes, his judgments, and his commandments. Now it's love first. When he was presenting who God is, he presented as fear, reverence, honor him, fear him, and obey him. But now he would point them to the other aspect. Why should you and I obey? Why should you and I do all the things that he wants us to do? He said obey his statutes, his judgments, his commandments, the ceremonial law, the civil law, the moral law. He said obey all this. But he brought up love first, the motivation. The motivation now is love. First, foremost. Love. And we have read, you will notice that from verses 2 to 12, he recited all the things that this God has done for them, right? And we're familiar with this. We finished the book of Exodus. He kept reciting what God did for them. Now, you have to understand that the children of Israel for 400 years have been used to whatever concept of God they received in Egypt. And record shows that as far as people can see, all other gods do not require that his people to love them. It is a new concept almost to the people. Suddenly to be told, love your God. Love your God. So to them it's love God. To the other gods that they're used to, they would never have this concept of God making a covenant with them, loving them so much that he would bind himself with them with a covenant. To them, a new concept, to many, in their hearts. Moses had to make sure the people now begin to see their God differently in their hearts, in their life, in their approach to him. It's all different now. So to them, the reason why he kept bringing up all what he did for the fathers, his covenant with them, he said, which God have you ever come across in your whole life, in your history, in Egypt, where there is a God that says, now I will make myself your God and I will bind myself in a covenant with you to take care of you, and when I promise you something, he said, promise me? What concept is that? God promised me? To them, God says, I must promise God, do things for God. Then hopefully, he will be pleased to smile upon me and take care of me. You notice yesterday we kept reading about, you look at chapter 10. Now he says, Verse 15, only the Lord God hath a delight in thy fathers to love them. You see, God loved us. What strange concept is this? God loved us, and then God chose us, and even chose the seed after them in verse 15, and make us a people to Him. How strange. Now their hearts begin to think. That's why in chapter 11, He did not stop there. He kept talking about how God came to deliver them. They were slaves, and He used mighty acts, great acts, and then they begin to think, that's true. Remember in Egypt, our God showed that He was above all gods. Whatever magic their gods could so-called do, our God was supreme, overtook them. This is truly the Almighty God, God of all lands. And said, but this God is the one who came to rescue us. He purposely came, stretched out His arm in verse 2, chapter 11 verse 2, stretched out His arm intentionally, strongly for us. Verse 3, He performed miracles in the land. He delivered us from the greatest army on earth at that time. Why would a God do this for us? It's totally unexpected. Unexpected. The gods then they feared their gods. If they don't do what they think their gods expect. For example, they will go to the extent, we know, to make sacrifices of children. They think that this is what their God required. It's not a God of love, it's a God of demands on us. But here this God took His initiative. We didn't expect it. He Himself stepped forward because He promised in a covenant to our forefathers, and He did that for us. So now Moses begins to show them another aspect of their God, besides the fact that He's the high and holy supreme God, which He did present to them earlier, and now He presents to them, this is your God, Israel. You must realize that. And therefore now He begins to talk about obedience now. But He says, love this God. How can you not love Him? And then to them, this love God. God loves us. You mean we are to love God? He says, yes. And He presented what He did, and He not only that, He presented what He will do for them. He will bring them into the promised land. We read that, a land that is full of milk, flowing with milk and honey, and they will possess the land. All this, your God will do for you. My friends, what about you and I? Since after salvation, what is your view of God? Is your view of God one that He's just there for us to ask things of? To go to Him with a checklist. God, do this for me, do that for me. But now Moses is trying to present to them, you must have a relationship with your God. Not just He's there, we ask things of Him, He tells us something that we just do, that's it. In fact, He wants to make that so personal. Look at verse 2, chapter 11, verse 2. He would say, and know ye this day, for I speak not with your children, which have not known, which have not seen. You see, He's now saying, it's personal. Personal. Not only that, He also talks about that in verse 5. He said, and what He did unto you in the wilderness, He said, He did it for you. Don't you remember what He provided for you in the wilderness? Very personal. Verse 7, He says, but your eyes have seen all the great acts of the Lord, which He did. He wanted it to be personal. Like I mentioned yesterday, why I wanted to talk about obedience. The burden in my heart is that I fear that many of us obey without a love for God. We obey simply because we are told to. Because our parents make us do that. You do not have a personal relationship with God, especially young people. Why do you obey God? Or because my parents make me. My parents tell me so. So I just obey. Grudging obedience will not last long. Moses understood that. This second time he came down with the 10 commandments, they cannot fail. Moses had to keep explaining, exhorting them, encouraging them, even rebuking them. You need to have a right understanding of this loving God. And then you must have a personal relationship with Him. Young people, you cannot think, I obey God because my parents asked me. So it's like there's no relationship. It's like a third party thing. You know what happens in this kind of obedience? As soon as you have freedom, you will run as far away from this God as possible. Because it's not personal. It's not personal at all. And even when you obey, the moment no one is looking, you will not obey. The moment you are alone, you just do what you want to do. But here Moses wants to overwhelm them, overwhelm their hearts. Your God is so different from all the gods that you have known. Don't you realize that? The God of love. New concept, right? He did all these things on His own initiative for you. You must love Him. You must have a personal walk with Him. And when you obey Him because you love Him. Why do you obey? Do you obey because next week is exams? I better obey God this week so that God will hear my prayer. If not, God will punish me. Next week my exams are too badly. Or working people, this month I must meet my targets this month. Better obey God, otherwise I don't meet my targets. Why do you obey? Or parents, I obey because just in case my children grew up bad, so I better obey God. Why do you do all that? Now I'm not saying that we should not bother about the consequences of sin. I'm not saying that at all. But as you read this passage, you begin to realize one thing. The reason why you and I obey God. Or I put it this way. The fuel that motivates you, that keeps you going in obedience to God. What must it be? It has to be love. That is what Moses now have to shift their thinking to. It must be love. If you simply think that bringing sacrifices, externally circumcising yourself, that is what it's going to do, Moses knew it's not going to last long. They will fall back into sin again very quickly. You've seen that. Now he persuades them. You and I must be persuaded the same way. Here the reason why Moses wanted to be personal is he don't want them to repeat what they've gone through, number one. Number two, it's only when they begin to ponder, when they begin to realize, when they begin to know what God has done for them, then they will begin to now fall in love with their God. And everything that they do, everything that they think about, whatever they bring to God, it's all out of love now. It is only such love that will last. What is this love then? Now he says, therefore thou shalt love the Lord thy God. Almost commanding them. You must love the Lord your God. What do you think is this kind of love, my friends? A love that is commanded. Can you command love? Can you? Command children, parents, can you command children, I expect you to love me? Well, yesterday Dr. Koshi mentioned the parents have the right to expect the children to honor them if the parents have been good parents. The children must obey the commandments to honor. But what do you think is this love that can be commanded? Do you think it is a love that is based on feelings, emotions only? It means I feel, yes, I must feel that I love God. I must work up my emotions to love God. That is what the modern worship services are like. Work up your emotions with lights, with music, with the externals. So what it is, work it up. When it's worked on just emotions, we also know that they don't last. Why? Because feelings change. Right? Feelings change. So what is this kind of love? Sometimes people say that if I don't feel like it, if I don't feel like going for a prayer meeting, I shouldn't go. because I'm a hypocrite. If I don't feel like dressing modestly, I should not, because it's hypocritical. Whatever I want to do, I must feel. When I want to do it from within me, then it is something that I should do. Now, if we depended on this kind of love, I think most of us will not obey God. What is this kind of love? Now, this kind of love is a love, because it's commandable, then it is a love that is, you make a choice. You choose to love. That's why it can be commanded in that sense. You choose to love. You imagine a husband and wife relationship. The husband or the wife says, I don't feel like I love you anymore after marriage, after 5 years, after 10 years. I don't feel like it anymore. And therefore, it is wrong for us to continue. Remember, those of you who are my age, that song by, I think it's Tom Jones, please release me, let me go. What are the next words? For I don't love you anymore. And then what's after that? To live a lie is a sin. To live a lie is a sin. Since I don't love you anymore, continuing is a lie, and that is a sin. Then what's after that? Please release me and let me love again. This kind of modern Hollywood pop music concept of love have unfortunately crept into Christianity. That's how we think. If I don't feel like it, it's wrong to continue. But here is a choice. Now, the highest form of love to God is when you don't feel like it. When you don't want to. And you say, God, I will do this because I want to love you. Isn't that so? Now, if a husband is constantly tempted by another woman at work, and she keeps pursuing him, and he don't feel, and then he look at the woman and he develop feelings for the woman in his heart. And then he begins to say, but now I love this woman more than my wife. Therefore, I should go back and sing this song to her or buy a tape for her. And then, or should the husband think this way? I'm tempted. My emotions are shaken. I'm drawn there. But I've promised to love my wife. I've chosen to love my wife. I will resist all this. I will reject her. I'll tell her outright. I'll even change job to be away from this temptation. What do you say? Wow, what a loving husband. Right? But why is it when it comes to God, it's, no, if you don't feel like you shouldn't do. Why is it like that? But when it's like that in marriage, we admire the marriage. Very strange how we think. But when you see the highest form of when someone is tempted, someone is drawn, and say, but I choose not to fall. I choose my wife. Now when you and I obey because simply out of fear, the husband says, I'm afraid that I might get caught. The church will know, that's so embarrassing. Then I have to go up and apologize in the pulpit. And then my friends will know. So shameful. You think that obedience will last very long? What will happen? The moment, maybe you go on a business trip. Only the two of you. No one else would ever know. In fact, you know that moment if you're spent together doing what you shouldn't do, no one in this world will ever find out. What will happen? Because you obey your vow to your wife, you obey simply because you're afraid to be caught. But at that moment when it's possible, no one will find out. What will you do? If your obedience is not motivated and fueled by love, you will probably say, no one will know. I will not get caught. My motivation is fear of being caught. Fear of being exposed. Fear of consequences. You will fall. you will fall. That's why Joseph said to Potiphar's wife, how can I do this great evil in his sight? He knew that God was looking. To him, it was always about his relationship with his God. When you and I obey, we must search our hearts. How many of you, in fact someone shared, yes, it's true, I used to think that if I did this or did that, study God's word or go for prayer meeting or serve God, when I don't feel like it and I say, yes, then I must choose to love. And when I do it, as I do it, my love for God begins to grow. My desire for God begins to change, like we sang. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face. This was what Moses was presenting. The wonderful face of God. This is your God, different from all other gods that you've known on earth. Look in his face. And then everything around you will begin to just fade away. Fade to the background. This is the kind of obedience we must begin to cultivate in our lives. Otherwise, we will begin to obey grudgingly, and that is the biggest concern. You obey grudgingly, you obey unwillingly, you obey because you have to, otherwise your parents get angry at you, or otherwise you're afraid that there are consequences, and there will be. But if that's the only reason why, you won't last long. 5 years later, like I said yesterday, will we still be here? Will you still be here? You will, if your motivation is love. It's love. That is what Moses wanted to now help them see. And when they see, hopefully, not only they know this great God, and they know that it's glory just to walk with him. This is our God. World, this is our God. And now they say, whoa, this is the God that loves us. Because he loved us first, now we return our love to him. God loved you first. How do you respond? Moses is saying, God took all this initiative. How do you respond? I think I might have shared this with you all before. I never forget a scene at a park once. And this lady was with her little child, and she had a very beautiful husky, a dog, the husky dog, very beautiful husky dog. I don't know why people have husky dogs in Singapore. I pity the dog actually. It's so hot. And she had a husky dog, it's very popular. And she and I were just looking at this dog. I love dogs. And I observed the dog was so, wherever the owner went and the kid went, the dog was always very close to them, especially the lady. Very close, always just at the heels. The moment she stopped, he will stop and then just sit next to her. And then I observed, no matter what other dogs were doing, running around, and other dogs, the moment they see other dogs, they run away and then they all go crazy somewhere. But his dog would just stay near the master. And then some people come and try and get the dog to come and play. It just ignores everyone else. Just always stick to the master so closely, So I couldn't resist because I had an Alsatian once and I worked so hard on training the dog. Never got anything out of that. Just gave up. Bad dog trainer. And as I asked her, I said, ma'am, I have to ask you, how did you get your dog to be so obedient and so loving? You could tell. The dog is always just looking up at the master's face. That's how dogs are. They're always watching the master's hand and face. Certain gestures in the face changes, certain gestures in the hand change. They will react. They know what their master is thinking. They're always just observing, wanting to please the master. That's how dogs are. So he's just always looking. The moment she wants to move, he will know and he will move with her. Never distracted one moment from all the things, the balls that are dropping around, dogs running around. Never distracted. So how do you train your dog? She told me this. I didn't train the dog. I said, how can it be? Look at the other dogs. I've trained dogs before. It's so difficult. I said, no, I never trained the dog. Seriously. I said, how long have you had this dog? Oh, only a few months. That even baffled me further. How could the dog be so close to the master? Then I said, what's the story? And she said, she went to SPCA and this dog was abandoned. And SPCA told her that this dog was very badly treated all the time by the previous owner. And Somehow it ended in SPCA, and then she adopted the dog. And she said when I adopted the dog back home, the dog was very afraid of her. The dog was used to be beaten, punished, not fed, and the owner would just throw tempers at the dog. And then, for many weeks, the dog was just so timid, afraid. Every time the master comes near, it will cringe. It will fear. But over time, because it began to experience this new master's love, kept feeding, caring, petting, and then the children hugs the dog. Say the children go near the dog or want to run away, and now begin to experience the hugging of the children. Begins to experience the faithfulness of the master. During mealtime, I will get a meal, and he will take me for walks. He will bathe me. He will care for me. He will feed me. And they say, just that alone. She just said, I just did that. And the dog realized that I'm a different master. I said, just because of that. I said, but he sticks so close to you. He said, yes, and this is the reason. The previous masters always abandoned the dog, left it alone at home. Never cared for it. And he said, now he's so afraid to lose this loving master that he's found. So she's very afraid that I might leave her. So she's always with me. That explains no matter what distractions, no matter what fun is happening around, this dog just wants to be near, never to lose his loving master that he has found. See, I didn't need to train it. That's why he will never run away from her. He will stop next to her and always looking into her eyes, lovingly, obeying everything that the master wants. You know, there is a saying, the more, in fact, dog owners often say that, the more I know of dogs, the less I think of human, the less I think of Christians, myself included. Dogs are very faithful, very loyal. Here Moses presents to them, you have this God that is different from every other God. He loves you, he cares for you. Now all the obedience now, Israel, you built the golden calf. I now present to you your God. You must obey him because you love him. And he keeps saying, you saw with your own eyes. I'm not even talking to your children. I'm talking to you who have personally experienced that. You and I, we personally experience salvation. Personally experience God's love. Why do you not love him in return? Why do you obey grudgingly? Is it because you don't have a personal relationship? You must check your salvation. That's why he kept pointing them again and again. You remember that. You experienced that. You saw that. I don't even talk about your children who have not seen. This dog saw, experienced, felt everything. Didn't need to be trained. Naturally obeyed because of love. Now when our motivation is that, my friends, whatever temptation comes around you, you will just want to be near your master. You won't get the distraction. You want to know how to love your master? Know who he is first. That's why we keep telling you. Study God's word. Your love for God will only grow. You may be moved. You may be even tearing now. It won't last long. Because you do not know your master. This dog experienced day by day by day by day. He experienced it. You don't study God's word, you don't experience him. God has said, the only way I reveal to you today is through my word. That's the only way you will know him. Put aside time to study. Know him. The Bible is often called the love letter of God to his children. How can you love your husband or wife more and more if you constantly don't spend time together? It's impossible. It will never happen. Very soon you go back from camp. Again, when the other dogs are running around, you will run after them. That's what happens. Now there is this question, having understood this. Do you ever ask yourself, why, after salvation, certain sins God removed from me? But certain sin God, if God can remove One sin, He can remove all, right? Maybe you have a weakness for watching TV. Then after you got saved, that just dropped off. Or maybe you have an addiction for music. Wrong music, bad music. After you got saved, it dropped off. Maybe you were a smoker. It dropped off. But why some things seem to stay? Why don't God just remove it from you? What do you think is the answer? I asked the teens the other night. Because you want to obey God, you want to love God. But why these temptations? Why am I still struggling? So did you find the answer? You see, go back and check? No? Couldn't find the answer? Why does God not remove everything? Can God remove everything? Yes, He can. Why does He not? Why does He not? I hear whispering. To remind us of sin. Remind us of sin. But if He removed, then no need to remind. It's quite good. But I know what you're saying. There's a reminder of something. You turn to Deuteronomy chapter 13. Moses talked about this a bit. Now he says, chapter 13, let me read to you, or shall we read this together, verses 1 to 4 together? If there arise among you a prophet, or a dreamer of dreams, and given thee a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, Let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known, and let us serve them. Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of the prophet, or the dreamer of dreams. For the Lord your God proveth you, to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul. You shall walk after the Lord your God, and fear Him, and keep His commandments, and obey His voice, and you shall serve Him, and cleave unto Him. You see? God says there will be those that will come and tempt you. There will be those that will come and draw you away from me. But God says it will happen. And you look at verse 3. He says, no, you don't listen to them. For the Lord your God, because the Lord your God proveth you. There's a test. The Lord wants to test you and I. To know whether you love the Lord your God. How? With all your heart and with all your soul. On the first message I say, wouldn't it be nice, instead of having grudging obedience, we have thrilling obedience. You know what's thrilling obedience? It means you look forward to obey God. You're excited to obey God. Isn't that what we want? How? How can that happen? This is what he's talking about. You and I have a choice, have a chance to prove our love for God. You have a chance. When you go to heaven, you don't need to, there's no this chance to prove anymore. Your chance to prove your love for God is here and now. Remember yesterday Dr. Koshi mentioned, the time to exercise faith is on earth. Don't miss that chance. Don't miss that chance. Don't fail it. Same for our love. God says there will be temptations. He will test you to prove you whether you love Him. So now how should you and I view temptation? This thing that doesn't seem to go away. What you and I should feel in our heart is, God, thank you for this test that is there. God, by your help, by your grace, God, I want to show that I love you. When it happens, God, I will choose to love you. I will choose you to prove that I love you because you first loved me. That is what we must feel. And then suddenly temptations becomes, or rather obeying God becomes something that is exciting. God, I have a chance to prove my love to you. You help me, please, Lord. Now, children, right? Parents, when you have children, sometimes when you walk, you buy them ice cream. I see that all the time. You buy them ice cream, buy them sweet, then they're walking. Although you don't feel like eating ice cream or sweets, give daddy some, let daddy taste, give daddy a sweet. What are you doing? Do you really want to eat it? No, right? What are you doing? You want to test. You love daddy or not? Love daddy or not? Will you give to me or not? Right? What happens when the child gives? Oh, he does love me. Huh? He does love me. But you don't know what your child is going through. Sometimes Shannon does that. I say, stop doing that. you don't know what the child is going through. The child is like struggling. The whole world revolves around those things. You know, the adult, that ice cream, that's sweet. But to a child, it revolves around that, you know. That ice cream. Okay. You know? I shared this, I think in the fellowship group. I did that to my niece once. My niece, I loved her very much when she was young. She came from America, stayed with us for a while. Oh, I loved her, daughter on her. She said, you love her more than the nephew. So, then once I bought, they like bubble tea, so I bought bubble tea. I don't like bubble tea. And I walked in, I said, oh, bubble tea. I said, let me have a sip. No. Oh, I was so hurt. I was so hurt. And I did something very bad. I actually was so bad I didn't talk to her. For a few days. But children know that. They sense that. I thought I just kid. But she sensed it. Although she was very young, probably maybe 5 years old, she sensed it. And she kept hugging me. Well, I'm a sinner, I admit. I said, I was still angry. After all these months, the way I love you, the way I buy things for you, the way I care for you, until people say I love you so much. She kept hugging me. She couldn't understand why I was not responding. But our God is not like that. God will allow these things in your life, my life, our chance to prove. Look far beyond. Don't just keep looking at those things. Why are some sins still there in your life? Can God remove? Yes. But you must realize, your God, the Lord your God proveth you to know whether you love Him. God knows, but more importantly, you and I must know. God knows, but you and I, God wants us to know. God wants us to know. And when we begin to know, we be humble. Then we say, Lord, I'm so ashamed. Okay, God, I want to love you more. The next time this happens, God, let me prove my love to you. You have shown to me that I don't love you. You have shown to me. The next time it happens, Lord, by your strength, by your grace, I will not do that again. Isn't that thrilling obedience? It thrilled my heart when I studied this and began to learn it myself. Now I look forward to that. In a sense, I look forward. God, let me prove my love to you. The Lord says, if you love me, what? Keep my commandments. Why does God need those things? Why should we love God? Always motivated by love. Then you know He will last. Let us pray. Now, someone asked, what is the difference between psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs?
有人说诗章、颂词、灵歌有什么不同？
Someone also asked, can we just have instrumental music?
有人说我们只要乐器的音乐就好。
Can we worship God with instrumental music?
我们单单用乐器的音乐来敬拜神就好，可以吗？